So there I was, an eager, optimistic woman with an advanced degree and a mountain of debt, ready to tackle the world, but no one was biting. Academia shifted to a mostly adjunct model, so unless I was willing to move back to Iowa or some equally remote location, finding a tenure track position would be next to impossible. And the corporate world was no more hospitable. In fact, I quickly found that I had more friends who were unemployed than employed. At least most of them received severance pay and had a bit of savings to cushion their job search. I, on the other hand, was still living like a 22-year-old grad student. The panic button was permanently clenched. This was the first time in my life that I felt a total lack of control. The world as I knew it was crumbling around me, and I couldn't change it any more than the choices I'd made so far, nor did I want to. Instead, my best recourse was to embrace the situation. At the time, the spirit of entrepreneurship hadn't yet taken hold in our culture. It wasn't until after 2008 that a confluence of technological advancements and financial circumstances, as well as a shift in how work gets done and how money gets raised, settled into our everyday culture, eventually producing a society of what Silicon Valley calls everywhere entrepreneurship. And yet, even before it became our default work mode and mindset, I had some entrepreneurial ideas I needed to explore. I became an early adopter. In 2002, right after college and while still in the Peace Corps, I ventured out on my own to start a music foundation. I spearheaded the venture, raised all the international financing, and managed the program during grad school for 5 years, at which time it was permanently integrated into the local community and supported by government funds, which was no small feat in an underserved area of the Dominican Republic. Building on that theme and momentum, back in the States in 2004, I collaborated with a classmate while still in grad school to start an arts education platform that matched students of all ages with talented, creative professionals in New York City for private lessons. That company eventually fizzled, but I'd been bitten by the bug. Soon, even my casual social conversations shifted to verbal daydreaming about potential companies and projects. Wouldn't it be cool if there were a... followed by rapid-fire brainstorming, popped up in more and more exchanges. I knew I couldn't control the rest of the world, but perhaps I could find my own satisfaction in life as an entrepreneur. This approach challenged and stimulated me in much the same way school always had. Unlike many entrepreneurs, I loved school. Some find academic institutions limiting, but I found them liberating. School was the only place I'd known where an uninhibited exploration of ideas was central to its operation, where creative imaginings and conversations about idealized possibilities, not just realities, happened daily. It felt like play, not work, and if I could find a way to replicate and sustain that feeling, I knew I could never work again. While I further nurtured my entrepreneurial persona, I continued to develop and teach sociology courses that deepened my understanding of the world onto which I wanted to project my ideas. I taught courses that explored our identity, everything from the way we look to our relationships with technology. I did research on how we form social connections and what helps or hinders our quest for happiness. I was thriving intellectually. The rest of my life, however, left much to be desired. For starters, I was broke. Academia pays very little, and starting your own venture pays even less at first. Not a great combination when living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. How would I pay my rent? Could I afford that late-night taxi home, or should I prepare for a 3 a.m. subway stroll? Which one of my more successful friends would pay for my drink out of sympathy? I was also very single. I couldn't articulate what or whom I wanted, let alone attract it. How could I compete with the hordes of gorgeous women in New York when I wouldn't even want to date myself? It was time to take back control. Sound familiar? Even if you didn't enter the quote-unquote real world in the middle of an epic financial meltdown, chances are you experienced similarly distressing uncertainty during your post-college